Washington. Okay. This is part 2.
But what I found was they are so much more receptive to changes that either they initiated, and I was completely open to stuff where they would come to me and say, hey, this process, we have been doing this for this long, and a lot of times it was new eyes that came in.
Oh, okay.
And said, you know, why do you do it this way? What about doing it this way? And there were several times when those of us who had been there for a while would go, what a good idea.
Yeah.
But if you will solicit the staff who do the job, they are your best resource.
Yeah, that's true.
For changes and knowing how to identify those parts of the process that do not work. And they're the best ones to go to and say, okay, what will work? So, yeah, I mean, change is inevitable.
Right. There's
change is
way.
inevitable. And so the best way to really get people to buy in, nobody likes change. The best way to get people to buy into change is to include them in the changes.
In the changes, yeah. And I through the experience I have had, that it was a huge issue. One of the places I worked before, where a manager came in, she had never ever worked in our facility before, and automatically she just started making all these changes, and it was really stressful on the staff because she wouldn't get input from anybody.
Stressful.
I mean, like within the first week. Yeah,
oh,
like
my
she
goodness.
didn't even know us, and she just started making all these changes when what we had done was working, you know, pretty good.
Yes,
and the doctors,
absolutely.
no, she didn't stay for very long because the doctors were like, we can't do it this way.
Well,
we
and
have to figure this out.
As a manager or as a servant leader, one of your jobs is to identify the strengths and weaknesses of, because everybody has them. Everybody has areas where they excel, and everybody has areas that can improve.
Right.
And as a manager, as a servant leader, your job is to identify those things and work on those strengths, make them even better, and on those things where they aren't as, let's see, what would the word be? They don't have the same level of expertise or the same level of, what is the word I'm looking for? When they don't work at the same high degree in another area, you teach them ways. Actually, it works better if you ask them, okay, what do you think you can do to make this part better?
Okay.
Because if you tell them what needs to be better, they're not quite as receptive as if you say, okay, I've noticed that in this area, this is not your strong area. So what do you think, what are some things that would help to improve that area and to strengthen those areas?
I can see how that would be really helpful. Yeah, because then you kind of can take an inner look at yourself and realize, figure out like what you can do to sharpen those weaknesses. Because I think, I mean, all of us want to be able to be as strong as we can be.
Absolutely.
And to look at those weaknesses and focus on those and get those up to where our strengths are is super duper important. And the personality differences too.
You know, one of your questions that you said, personal leadership strengths, I honestly think, and it took me a long time to develop this, I mean, I'll confess, listening.
That is huge.
A lot of people, and I include myself in this, and honestly, there is a scripture verse that says, be slow to speak and quick to listen.
I just put that in one of my postings the other night.
Yeah, and it took me a while to actually incorporate that into my being, but it is very important
because we all want to give our own opinions.
Yes, absolutely. And there were a lot of times when people would talk to me, particularly my early years, and it would just go right over me because I didn't hear what they said.
Yeah.
But over I would say probably in the last 10 to 15 years, I have really learned to listen to what it is they're saying, and not always the words either. But their body language, and really try and where they're coming from.
That's really hard to do too in patient
is.
care, because like you want to think that you know exactly what they need at that
Right.
point in time, and oh wow, we're already at 15 minutes.
Yes.
But you want to be able to suggest things and everything too. And I realize as a mom too, sometimes they just need you to listen.
Yep.
They don't
That's
need
right.
you to tell them what to
That's
do.
exactly
They
right.
don't need suggestions. They just want you to
A
listen.
prime example is husband and wife.
Oh yeah.
Because my husband, when I'll go home if I have had a bad day or whatever, or somebody has, kind of acted out, which can happen, and I'll go home and I'll say, "Gosh," I said, "today was awful because of all." Well, by golly, this is what you need to do. That's really not why I'm telling him. I just need to vent. I just need to vent a little bit, and I don't need to have you fix it.
Right.
I just need you to hear me.
Just listen. Yep. And I'm sure you've noticed that. I mean, I've noticed that myself too. When I vent and somebody tries to tell me what to do or make suggestions,
exactly.
I'm like, and
Yes.
then it's them.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm so mad at you now because just listen to me.
Yes.
Let me make sure this is still recording here. Hopefully we got it. Yeah, it still is. Okay. Well, is there anything else?
It honestly, the longer you live, and for me personally, and I honestly think this would work for everybody, but everyone's not in the same place where I am. And that is a relationship with God. That literally has changed my life. And it's not just all of the good stuff. It's the hardships that I have gone through. And I haven't ever gotten fired as a nurse. I have gotten fired before.
Before you were a nurse? Yeah.
And honestly, it is the hard times you go through that develop you as much as the good times.
Yeah.
Probably more so.
More so the hard times. I've noticed that too.
And so I just find that is something that I start thanking him in the bad times.
It's hard to do though.
It is hard to
It's
do.
like, why am I going through this?
Yes. So.
Well, thank you, Mary. I appreciate you
You're
sitting
welcome.
down with me and doing this with me. And
You are welcome.
I think it's always important to listen to people that have been there and done that and got the T-shirt for it, and
Yes.
learn from them. And
I can honestly say, with 100% assurance, I still love what I do.
Yeah. There's those days, but
yes,
there is those days.
And you know what's funny?